On this week's show, what does Lloyd and Lem think about what could have been? All this and more in episode 136 of the Inside Infinity podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another fantastic episode of the Inside Infinity podcast. This is not Legendary Learning if you are following along on Twitch. I'd like to welcome all of my friends that are joining us live today. This episode is recorded, what's today? June 8th, 2016. I'd like to say hello to our friends in chat. Ash, how's it going? Captain Disney, good seeing you again. DMB, awesome name. Cindy, what's up? Tad, Jen Allen, Latin Soul, Molly Tangerine, what's up? Haley, Pariant Della Garza, ooh, I'm guessing that's my buddy. How's it going, bud? Tesla Blitz and the Maxi Geek. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for showing up this week. You know what? We don't really have much news to discuss, but we did go like 3.5 weeks without doing a show. Last week I did it solo, and I just wanted to bring these guys back on, get their thoughts on some of the things we talked about last week. You're probably asking yourself, especially if you're listening to this via audio format, who are these guys that I'm referring to? Well, the first these guys is none other than Lem, aka Bad Gamer Official. How's it going, buddy?
Good, Peachy Gianchino. Actually, it changed.
Did it change? I was just thinking that as I said it aloud. What did it change to?
A Bad Gamer Elite. Because I am the best at being the worst.
That's a lot easier to understand, too. Bad
Yes.
Gamer Elite. All right, I'm changing that for you right now. Welcome, buddy. Are you excited to talk Infinity news with us today?
Oh, please. I haven't done this in so long.
Awesome.
We're so excited.
We're glad to have you here. The other voice that you heard a few minutes ago, and you didn't hear him giving me a hard time, as always, off screen, Lloyd Hansen. Lloyd, how are you doing tonight, buddy?
You know, Will, I'm doing pretty darn good. It's nice to be here on the Inside Infinity podcast. It's been far too long because of weird issues and computers blowing up and all that other stuff. So I'm happy to be here to chat with all you fine folks about Disney Infinity.
Good, buddy. Good. I'm excited as well. I think we're going to have a fun show. Like I said, I'm interested to hear you guys' thoughts. You know what? We're here, and we're sticking around. But let's get through some housekeeping stuff here. So, we're here again 2 weeks in a row. There's not much to talk about. We're going to go over some things that have happened in the past couple weeks. But we're looking at how to evolve the show, how to evolve the channel, and some things like that. So give us your feedback. One of the ideas we're throwing around, and you can provide that feedback. I should have started with that. You can email us at resd at gmail. Was it, Lloyd? ResTV. I have it right here in front of me. ResTV, REZD at gmail.com. Give us that feedback. Email us. Seriously, the show is for you. So give us your thoughts. Give us your ideas on how you'd like to see the show evolve. In that evolution, we are still planning to discuss Infinity. And we're not sure in what capacity. Maybe, again, that's going over some community stuff, like community toy boxes, stuff like that. But we're thinking about opening up to a little broader of genre, can you say that? Or topics maybe, in the form of possibly covering all things Disney gaming. And when we say all things, we're referring to the Kingdom Hearts of the world. We're referring to the Disney Magical Kingdoms of the world on iOS. We're talking Crossy Roads. We're talking Fantasia that Lem's going to be streaming on next week's time slot. So basically anything that is a Disney game. Lego The Force Awakens is another example. Lego and Marvel games over on Lego. So if you're interested in that and you think that's a good idea, something you'd like to hear us continue to talk about, let us know. Like I said, we feel that might be a way to provide consistent content, a consistent show to you, while also throwing in Infinity information whenever we have something to talk about. And we can even go about maybe possibly like forcing that content, even if there's nothing specific, but just making sure that there is still a portion of the show that's Infinity based. So give us your thoughts. Like I said, that email address, now I remember it, is rezdtv@gmail.com. Thanks, Lloyd. Thank you. Speaking of Res TV, with the show changes and evolution, we're going to start migrating some of our stuff over more to the Res info. So we're going to make sure that you're not going to miss the content no matter where you're subscribed, whether it be here or over there. But to ensure you don't miss anything, we're going to ask that you head on over to youtube.com/ResTV. Send us a subscribe over there. Also, twitch.tv/ResTV. And that way you can make sure you're listening to us talk about Disney stuff. You can listen to us talk about video games. You can listen to Lem talk about comics and geekdom and all the other fun stuff. But like I said, we will be moving some of the Inside Infinity stuff over there. So just to make sure you are you're going to be kept up to speed, please hit those follow and subscribe buttons. Gentlemen, Lloyd, is there any other housekeeping that I've missed?
Yeah, nothing's changing yet. So Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff, it's the same. So subscribe and do whatever. But if you want to stay one step ahead of the game and you want to still get all this awesome content in the future, wherever it would be, what you should do is go over to twitch.tv/ResTV and click the little follow button. And also go over to youtube.com/ResTV and click the follow or subscribe button. If you do that, then it doesn't matter where the stuff goes, you will still get it on whatever website you log into. Some stuff is just going to start moving over, so it makes sense if you still want to see all the fun stuff that we're doing, follow that stuff. Miss Kip in the chat room says merge social media accounts and stuff like that will be coming in the future, but nothing's changing yet. So no need to resubscribe or refollow or refriend or whatever you do on Instagram. I guess it's friends or follow. I don't know.
Follow. It's a follow.
It's a follow. So none of that has to be done yet. There's going to be a lot of changes coming, but for right now, we're really excited and I don't know, we're really stoked about telling you to subscribe on YouTube and Twitch because that's going to be the more immediate change. And we don't want anyone to miss out on any of the awesome content we put up here, whether it's Disney Infinity, whether it's other gaming stuff, or whether it's just Disney games with some of the extended and expanded content stuff that we're going to start covering here.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. There's Lem's contribution. That was awesome.
I just press the buttons they tell me to press, folks.
That's right. That's right. You almost said that, not quite as sophisticated. You said almost that exact same thing today via chat. So it's true. It's true. Cindy, like where your head's at. That was actually kind of my thought as well. And that's a teaser for anyone who's in chat. All right, boys. Let's get things started. How's that sound? Let's point Lem in that correct direction. So last week, like I mentioned, I talked about the Kotaku article that has since been displayed throughout. Actually, no, I'm going to pause it for a moment. And I want to talk to the chat about something that I brought up with you guys today. How crazy and how much can change in a year. So next week is E3. We're not going to have a show next week. Lem is going to be streaming in this time slot, but we're going to be doing a lot of E3 coverage next week, so we're not going to be talking Infinity. So we want to make sure to bring you a show this week. But E3 is next week. That means almost a year ago, the Sony presser at E3 happened, and I totally forgot about this until I was going through Kotaku's actually been running these series of articles of the different shows and what promises were fulfilled and which ones weren't. And today they posted the Sony one, and I totally forgot about it. I'm scrolling through, and then I see Mr. Vignacchi, JV, our friend, up on stage at the Sony presser. I totally forgot about that, guys. Like, last year Infinity was so important, and that partnership with Sony was so valuable. Infinity had they were part of the briefing. I mean, they were up on stage. That's crazy.
They were on the stage. They had the special pack that came with another playset, came with Boba Fett. You know that there's some sort of money exchange hands, whether it's PlayStation to Disney or Disney to PlayStation to get these prominent features on the store and whatnot. And then, not even a year later, and DI is no more, and Disney's not making their own games anymore. They're going to be farming them out to other teams and licensing them out. So, yeah, man, it's kind of weird. It feels like so long ago, but no, it's not even quite a year yet.
Lem, what do you think? Did you remember that happened last year?
I remember that JV was up there. We were all cheering him on, and this year that's not happening.
Yeah.
And I kind of remember, not necessarily at the presser the year before for 2.0, but they made a big deal about 2.0 and Sony.
Yeah.
So with the big snow ice beast thing and base, and that was a big deal. It's just it's like the sun coming up. Oh, the sun's gonna come up. Disney Infinity 4.0.
Yeah.
It's sun, Disney Infinity.
Yeah.
Isn't it Star Wars is better on PlayStation was one of the taglines for their advertising because of all the extra content Star Wars games got on the PlayStation 4. And man, a year later, it's like, Disney what?
Yeah.
Star Wars who?
Because that partnership was pretty strong, and we know JV and John Blackburn have relationships with the bigwigs up there at Sony. I wonder if Sony had any say, or if they were not approached, but if they were given kind of a heads up that this was coming down the pike or what. I don't know. I don't see Sony like bailing Infinity out or anything like that, but I do wonder, kind of heads turning over there and like, what, really?
Yeah.
And their thoughts about that.
It wouldn't surprise me if heads returned, because I mean everybody's heads returned. You got folks that casually collect Disney Infinity, and then they go nuts when it gets canceled. I mean, there's a couple of guys that I've been watching on YouTube, Lamar Wilson and Boogie the number. I forget the number. But they both went kind of nuts when it ended.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have expected that from, these guys that play all kinds of stuff.
Yep. Yeah. With that being said, I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling more comfortable now. I feel like the community is kind of getting to a point where it still hurts and it's still painful, but we're figuring out our ways to deal with it. And I feel like I'm starting to see a little bit of positivity kind of come from that. I don't know in what ways. Maybe it's just a feeling, but I think people have kind of like the shock is starting to wear off, and now we're learning the ways to deal with it and cope. Right. So cool, boys. Well, with that, let's bring down the tone a bit and make you more depressed. This was bittersweet last week when I was kind of talking to the chat about it, kind of what could have been, but then also giving some thoughts about, well, I don't know if that was necessarily an idea, and then those are a good idea, and then those types of missteps, in my opinion, kind of is what led us here. So I'm super excited to hear what you guys are gonna think about these things. I'm gonna remain mostly quiet unless I have something to kind of add to your conversation, because I gave my opinions last week and I want to give you two the opportunity. So we linked this in the chat. We will link it in the show notes, so look for it there. A couple weeks ago, Kotaku had a scoop shortly after the announcement of Disney Infinity being shut down. This was released on May 12th, 2016. So, dang, has it been that long? It's been a month now, huh?
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. It seems like it seems simultaneously like it's been a lot longer and a lot less than that too. So basically, this was a tell-all. And I also mentioned, if you haven't listened to last week's show, we're planning a couple tell-alls when the time is right on our end. So we're going to have some guests, and the sky's going to be the limit pretty much on what they're able to talk about. So I'm sure that we're going to get even more information than what's included in this article. But for now, we're just going to talk about this article. The title of the article, Sources, the ambitious, now canceled in parentheses, plans for Disney Infinity's future included Rogue One, bigger figures. So I have these in bullet point format. I'm going to just mention the first one here and let you guys run away with it. So Ninja Theory was working on a Star Wars Rogue One playset to release this fall. Lem, Lloyd, what do you guys think about that?
Well, I first watched the Rogue One trailer a while ago when it first came out, and I'm sad to say that I was more excited for that movie than Episode 7. And then I found out there was going to be a Rogue One playset.
Yeah.
I am now going to have to live without that, and I don't want to. I'm not nearly as much of a Star Wars guy as you guys are, so I can't imagine how it makes you feel. But I would. It's a huge bummer because these are characters that we don't know, and then we can actually build a little bit more of our own story with them as well. And I would have loved to done that.
Totally, I totally agree. I guess again, we're looking for silver linings here. Now, when that movie comes out, there's probably going to be a standalone game. We're going to get back to that. Maybe not for this one because that's a little bit early, but maybe for episode 8, we'll start getting standalone games again for these things, which is terrible. But yeah, I don't know. I really like Ninja Theory. I like kind of what they did to Infinity, changing the fighting subsystem and some other stuff. I loved, just like you, Lem, the trailer to Rogue One, and while watching it, like every other Disney movie, whether it's a Marvel, Star Wars, or Pixar, I watched the trailer and I'm like, oh, how is this going to be made into a playset? And it's like, oh yeah, that would be a really cool scene, or oh, that's kind of neat, or this is a neat idea, or oh, we haven't seen anything like that before. So I was looking at the trailer with the Disney Infinity glasses on, and it's kind of terrible that we're not gonna ever have a chance to kind of do that again. But yeah, I'm not super excited or disappointed rather that Ninja Theory isn't going to be working on it anymore. They've had some hits and misses, but it was more just the IP being in the game, and just getting more Star Wars, and the fact that, like every other Star Wars playset, I'm sure you'd be able to play as any Star Wars character in that world. And then you wonder how that's going to tie into the fiction of this movie being kind of a prequel to the first ones before the other prequels that happened. So it would be kind of cool to see how all that stuff played out. But yeah, now we'll never know.
Well, and kind of going on that concept of watching the movie, going home and playing in the world, Studio Gobo was working on a Moana playset. It was scheduled to come out. So I'm curious. It's the Moana thing, but then it's also the Studio Gobo thing. What are you guys' thoughts?
For me, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Lem.
Because I can keep mine very short. Not knowing much about the movie, because I know that Will, you got to see a little bit or get a little bit more at D23 last year. But for me on that piece, it was the figures. Oh my gosh. A Maui figure.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have that one in the studio. Oh my gosh. Just for me, it's the figures. I could probably live or die without the story. But in that instance, oh gosh. The detail in the tattoos.
Yeah,
I agree. The figures, that's one of my favorite parts of the game. Gobo did the Pirates playset in 1.0, right?
They did Pirates in 1.0. They did
Rise of the Empire. They did Guardians of the Galaxy.
And 2.
All really good playsets. So them not working on another playset is sad because it's not them working on a playset. But yeah, I think my biggest disappointment is just these figures are so amazingly detailed, but they have a style all their own, and not getting more of those coming out, even if it wasn't related to a game, if it was just figures coming out in that art style, I'd be happy, but it doesn't look like we're getting any of that moving forward.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys have noticed, but The Rock, who plays Maui, he's really hyping up the movie. He's been posting pictures. He's been posting himself in the voiceover studio, and he's so jazzed about it. I know he would have been involved in that figure. I just know it. And having like The Rock's voice in game with that figure was just would have been so cool. So right there with you guys.
Definitely. Yeah.
So this next one, this was one of those possible missteps. So I'm super duper curious to hear your thoughts, because on the one hand, there's a character that I absolutely love and I would have been a sucker to buy in. And then when I was going through the show last week, I'm like, and then I probably would have gotten him, and then him, and him. So I said I didn't like this idea, and I still think it was a mistake. But 12-inch figures were coming, and the figures were going to include some from all three versions of the game. We were going to have Star Wars, we were going to have Marvel, we were going to have Pixar from the first game. Those figures were Buzz Lightyear, Elsa, Hulk, Hulkbuster, Jack Skellington, Darth Vader. They were going to be $45, and they would have acted differently in game, and they would have lit up and had more details. Go with it, guys.
This is one of the things that I heard about that, and I'm like, that's stupid. It's kind of funny because I'm an amiibo collector for Nintendo platforms and franchises that I really dig. I pick up the amiibos around it. Nintendo made something called the Jumbo Yarn Yoshi. So it's a stuffed animal that is also an amiibo. I saw one in stores for the first time like just a few days ago, and I'm like, oh, that looks so awesome. I want to pick it up. $45, no thank you. And that's kind of how I would have thought of these ones as well. If I'm going to get a 12-inch figure, it's going to be a statue. Although I do love the Disney Infinity art style, and if these looked as awesome as I think they would have, like you will, as stupid as I say they are now, they would be in my cart and I'd be buying them, and they'd be on a shelf somewhere, because that is how strong I am around anything Disney Infinity. Yeah. So. Yeah, I don't like the idea, but I would have bought them.
Yeah, and it does say more detail too, so it sounds like it might have been what would have been your downfall in them is that they might have been more statuesque.
Yes. Yeah, that I'm curious of what this acted differently in game was. Like, yeah. Are they like giant versions of the characters stomping around the levels? Probably not, but they might have had extra moves or something. That would have been really interesting to kind of see. It's kind of similar to Skylanders, where there's a lot of different versions of the same character, and they all do most of the same stuff, but some stuff a little bit differently. Either if they're reposes or if they're just variants, color variants. They would all have a little bit different personality or moves or something. And it'd be interesting to see how they would have worked that into Disney Infinity. So yeah. Interesting.
Would you have been suckered into buying them, Lem, or would you have been able to say no?
I would have put them on a gift list of some sort. So, like a birthday gift or a Christmas gift, a Hanukkah gift, even though I don't celebrate, but I could still celebrate. Just some sort of thing. I would not have put the money out myself.
Yeah.
And my second piece would have been, where do I put them? My shelf space is set up for regular size Disney Infinity figures. You know, maybe some Legos, and those are smaller. But I don't. I say now I would not have done it.
Yeah.
But I also said there's a certain game I was not going to buy, and then I got a good deal on it.
You can say it now.
I was not gonna buy Lego Dimensions. I was not going to, and then there was a good deal that came up. And then I saw some of the new IP stuff that was, well, the IPs that were scheduled, and I was like, oh, look at that! Oh, look at that!
So a running theme of tonight, and if you listen to our shows in general, a running theme is we say we don't want to buy it, but then during the course of the conversation, we a lot of times turn to saying, but yeah, we probably would buy it. And it sounds like we're kind of all three on that on that boat.
Yeah. I still think it's a dumb idea. And where do I put the money so I can get these things?
Where do you think the idea came from? Who asked the question, I want a 12-inch figure. I want price, and the money it's been a constant point of discussion, and not always a criticism, but a constant point of discussion for this. And so the idea of coming out with additional figures, of which we already own or own multiple versions of. Darth Vader was one of the figures. We have Darth Vader and the light effects. Granted, these are going to be bigger, but they're like, yeah, let's make a new figure and charge a lot more money for it. It's just bizarre.
I think it's like sorry, go ahead, Lem.
Yeah, I wonder if they were articulating at all, because for a long time they couldn't do anything articulating.
I really doubt that, only because I'm not like a statue collector, so I don't know. Maybe you guys would know more than me, but I feel like that would lose some of the quality of it being a statue, if that's kind of what their intention.
I could see that too.
So
yeah, I think for this, they probably were looking at what Nintendo did with the Make a Yarn Yoshi, and it's like, oh, we could do that. And then they looked at kind of other Star Wars toys on the market, and there's the 9-inch or 7-inch action figures. There's the 9-inch Black Series action figures, and then there's the 12-inch hyper detailed ones, which are also the black edition that have like removable faces and things like that. So this is something that's been in the market for a long time. $45 is a lot for something that is supposed to be used in a kid's game, though. So this was probably more aimed at maybe the adults. But then you see like Elsa and Buzz Lightyear, and then maybe it wasn't aimed at adults at all. Maybe it was aimed at the children that the game is mainly focused for. So it's interesting. $45 I think is $15 too expensive for what these things would be. But yeah, what it tells me is that Disney Infinity was doing good enough where they had the resources to work on these things, to plan them out, to do 3D prints, whatever else they did for them. So there was money there. They weren't operating on their last dime and having to turn lights off when they left rooms.
Right.
That's not something that a company that is having financial issues, or a studio that is having financial issues, would do. So for if nothing else, this is interesting in that regards, where it's like, okay, well, they obviously had grandiose plans for this game, and they had money to do this, and then stuff happened and they didn't. I want to see a tell-all tale in like 5 years, a book, 10 years, maybe a book written about what happened, because there's got to be some really interesting conversations. Obviously not interesting if you're part of them, but just
especially now.
Yeah, what happened kind of a week or two before the axe came down, and then what kind of happened after. And yeah, I still feel so bad for all the people that are going to be losing their job. Like, that is absolutely horrible. But it would be a very interesting story to read, just to see kind of what happened and where they went wrong.
Title of the book: The Rise and Fall of the Infinite Empire.
There you go.
You're such a wordsmith. It's awesome. I love it. Two things. One, you just made me think of. I can't remember if I discussed it last week. I know we talked about it on a show when we first got the news. Is Disney doing anything? I have gotten word that Disney did hold a kind of a job fair, for lack of a better term, and they did bring some of the biggest name developers in-house. People got to go meet and greet. They got to talk to people. They got to go through some interviews, and hopefully they're getting work with, or help with placement, and the whole process. So kudos to them on that. Kudos to Disney for making that happen. It's the least they can do, and I'm just glad to hear that they did that. So that was one thing I wanted to mention that you made me think of. The other thing, I hadn't thought about this with these figures. Universal Bojack in the chat has said, would those 12-inch figures just plug in via USB since they wouldn't fit on the base? Like, how would the interoperability with the game and the consoles work? That hadn't even crossed my mind. I don't know why. But.
It might be like the light effects where they have a bigger, taller base that kind of is underneath. Like they'd have a platform with the Disney Infinity circle below it. But yeah, that thing can't be too stable. If it's like 12 inches is pretty big compared to a normal Disney Infinity figure. But yeah, it would be interesting. Can you imagine how heavy Hulkbuster would be? Like, would you have to pay extra to get that shipped to you from Amazon.com? Like, it was already heavy enough in Disney figure form, but 12-inch figure would be huge, man.
When I was going through this list last week, I'm like, you know what? I'm the sucker for anything Jack Skellington is my favorite. So I was like, even though I wouldn't want to, I would want to buy that. And then I'm reading off the list, and then I'm like, Hulkbuster? Like, how could you not have a 12-inch Hulkbuster? That has to happen. So, and then it made me go to Darth Vader. I'm like, okay, add him. Then I want more Pixar. Give me Buzz Lightyear. I'm like, crap. Before you know it, I'm $500 in the hole. What was that, Lem?
I say, must just get them all.
Exactly at that point.
Oh,
well, good news. We don't have to spend that money because it's not happening.
Yeah, it's $170 you can put towards something else.
Yep. So something we've been talking about for what feels like 8 months now. It seems like just a few months after the release of the last game is, and then especially the conversation heated up again once they kind of announced Next. The failed Next, because it's no longer Next, how are they going to release them? Are they going to have numbered versions again? And the answer to that question is yes, they would have. They would have launched Disney Infinity 4.0 in 2017, so they were working on that next version. I've heard, and I don't know if it was in this article, but I feel comfortable saying it, I've heard that after that, though, it was just going to be Disney Infinity. They were going to drop the number. I don't know if that's an indication of how they were going to develop the game moving forward, if they were just going to add on to that 4.0, or if that point forward they just had the release be like the Star Wars edition or the Pixar edition, or however they continued that. So lots in this bullet point, so I want to pause for a moment there. 4.0, what do you guys think? Lem, what do you think?
I go to talk Lem Talks, and then I don't talk Lem.
That's what we're like.
That was awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. I love the idea of dropping a number and just being Disney Infinity. It's kind of an Apple way of doing things, but it also shows that they were going to maybe start treating it more of a platform going forward, kind of what they were starting to do with a Disney Infinity Next. I really like that. The new content is like a lot of obvious things, like that this stuff was going to happen. The thing that's most exciting to me though is the toy box story mode. We've been asking since the first one, like, why can't I use Violet in Pirates of the Caribbean? Yeah. I want to use that figure there, and to have a new story that was written just around Disney Infinity as a property. That to me is the biggest gut punch, because that would have been so much fun to go through. Like, Toy Box Takeover was great, but kind of lacking. It would have been amazing to have a full toy box around some other story that was written that any character could have been an actor in. That would have been so amazing. And that to me is kind of the biggest disappointment for no Disney Infinity stuff moving forward.
Absolutely. You find in the IG community, there's Instagram, for those of you who don't call it IG.
Nerd.
Yeah. But you see a lot of people like making up their own teams. You had like we did one, Black Widow, the two Spider-Mans, and Ant-Man team bugging out, right? Team Scallywag, Jack Sparrow, Star-Lord, Han Solo, and I forget who else. But put your own Scallywag in. But that's the type of thing. And you could have made that team and played as that team. It would have been really nice.
Well, and absolutely. I mean, it brings in that toy box feel that they obviously been advertising, and it's such an integral part of the game. It is. I would consider the toy box the primary pillar of the game. But but one thing they always do is they've said, and they've been very deliberate about with the introduction of Marvel. Well, not only from the get go with Pixar, it was the characters could only interact within the toy box, so you could not be in any sort of narrative driven fashion. It seems to, and I mentioned this last week, it seems to me that the game had finally gotten to the point where all property holders, I mean, yes, it's all Disney, but they still have to play nice with each other. All property holders finally understood what the game was, that these were toys, and that it's not Han Solo going up against, in this situation, it wouldn't be Han Solo going up against Donald Duck. It would be the toy version of Han Solo going up against the toy version of Donald Duck, and it's okay. And you kind of saw them get their feet wet with Toy Box Takeover in 3.0, and this seems like the natural evolution of that. But the thing that it simultaneously sucks and is awesome all at the same time is that it seems like the game finally got the respect it deserved from those other areas of the company.
Mm-hmm. Totally. That was always the most ridiculous thing. It's like, no, we can't have your character in our world, and it's like, well, you're selling a game that has something called a toy box. Like it's not your character; it's a toy version of the character. Oh, I lost all video. That's weird.
Yeah, so did I.
I did too.
Weird. But
hopefully it comes back here.
That's why I really loved Lego Dimensions, is the fact that you can have Scooby-Doo running around with Batman fighting characters from, I don't know, Ghostbusters, and it was so cool to have that as an option. So that it's really disappointing that was finally killed, or not finally killed, but it was prematurely killed by canceling the game.
Yep. Gents, can you? There you go. Hey, look at that. You're back. You didn't even need me. Some other content that was going to be included in this version of the game. We don't know what this content is or the breadth of this content, whether or not it was going to be playsets or figures, or I'm sure it was probably a combination of all of those. Content would be taken from properties such as Cars 3, that movie's coming up, Star Wars Episode 8, another Pirates of the Caribbean for the Dead Man Tales No Tales. It's hard to say when you're on a podcast. Another Pirates of the Caribbean. I wanted one of those for lots of reasons. I wanted Studio Gobo to do it again, because to this day, Pirates is still my favorite playset.
They did so well.
But I also selfishly wanted, I don't know why, I wanted another Johnny Depp. I don't know if he's in that movie, but give me one more Johnny Depp in the game, because we can't have too many of them. Coco, which is another movie coming out. Guardians of the Galaxy 2, that would have been cool.
Yes.
And then finally Thor Ragnarok. So again, we don't know what would have been what, but I would presume the majority of those would have been playsets. I would maybe Cars 3. I would definitely Episode 8. Pirates definitely. I'd even say definitely Guardians 2 and Thor Ragnarok. I'm not sure about Coco and Cars 3, but I don't know. What do you guys think about not only that content that we're not getting, but how it would have been delivered as well?
That would have been fantastic. Mike, I have a question though. Isn't there another figure that came out later that there was possibly going to be female figure in Marvel? Did you guys hear about this?
Yeah, JV had said that there's another strong female character that's one of his favorites that hasn't even been announced yet. And, well, we don't know what it is because it wasn't announced and won't be announced, unfortunately.
Okay. I thought I read it somewhere, but I could be off. I won't say anything if we don't have that. If we don't have to have it to cite.
When that seems like it was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I thought I read something recently, but
do you have the name of a character, Lem?
Yes, I do, but I don't want to say because I don't have anywhere to cite it.
There's no game to spoil anymore, so
I know. Sorry, that's just my natural inclination. And it could have been a fake list that I read somewhere. But did anybody else hear about Spider-Gwen?
I saw a custom that someone did with Spider-Gwen, which looked really awesome. That would be really cool.
Huh.
Yeah, I saw that too, but that was all I
maybe
saw.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. But I would have loved to have seen that in like really real.
I would have loved those characters, Spider-Woman, Spider-Gwen, and Silk all together as a playset. That would have been absolutely amazing.
Dude.
So you're saying that with this content you would want that addition. Does the Guardians and Thor Marvel content not excite you at all?
Oh yeah, as I said, I love all playsets. Give me as many playsets as you want, and I will buy them all and play them all. All this stuff is kind of no-brainer stuff. It's like if a movie was coming out, there'd be a property, there'd be a playset for that property release, and I would be more. We're not going to get any of that. But again, the good thing is now that Disney is going to be licensing this stuff out again, we're probably going to get poor versions of these that have easy trophies to get for people that collect a lot of trophies on their PlayStation. Not naming any names or pointing back at myself, but they're not gone forever, which is fortunate. But they're not going to be in Disney Infinity, which is very unfortunate.
Yeah. Lem, what were you pointing at?
I was pointing at Lloyd.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. They said that they were going to have content from basically everything they're releasing moving forward, and this list definitely supports that. So, yeah.
I wonder if they would, since they've worked out a deal with Sony, whether they would have worked out a deal with Fox at some point.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah. Who knows? Like, a lot of what wasn't possible before now is.
Right. Well, we can look at that as a kind of a positive. Maybe we can get some more of the mutants and other guys working together.
That's definitely a really good idea. Yeah.
I would like that to happen a lot.
Awesome. I this next item I accidentally mentioned earlier. I guess it was in the article. The number scheme, dropping that. So we already discussed that, and then the toy box story mode, we already discussed that as well. So, any characters other than Deadpool, Lem? Any characters that you would have liked to seen in that story mode as far as like starring characters go? I mean, we could presume that any characters we have on the shelf would be possible, and I would assume we'd see some Star Wars mixing with Pixar, mixing with Marvel, mixing with just Disney. But who would you guys like to see as kind of main story participants in that?
I'm going to defer to Lloyd for a second, because there's so many that I'm thinking, and you guys know that I'm looking at Marvel. Let me just think about that for a sec.
You're asking what characters would we like to see in figure form that would be playable, or more just things in the background?
My apologies. My question was existing characters that we have today that could be starring members. They could have starring roles of that story mode.
Oh, that's a different question.
Sorry.
I don't know. I think what they would have done with this story mode is that every figure that's out would be someone that could be part of the story, but they would have the big bad would be someone that was not part of Disney Infinity yet. So there's no figures for that person, whether it's like Thanos or something.
That would have been totally great.
That would be a lot of fun. We're not going to get a Thanos figure.
Yeah, wasn't there a hint?
Yep.
Of a Thanos figure.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we're not going to get a team Han shot first.
Yep.
Yeah, that's something that's been discussed a little bit on the interwebs here and there.
Yeah.
Super upsetting for those folks.
I had whole days marked off on my calendar that I'd be making Torment Pirates, Torment the Pirates mini figure character thing. I'd be making death arenas for him. Now I'm gonna have to like do other stuff on those days. I'm pretty sad about that.
I just have to use mini Jack Sparrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a poor man's pirate, Steve.
True that. True that. All right, guys. Well, go ahead.
But now that you say it, I'm looking over at my figures, and what I would have liked to see is a return to the mini challenges based on that character, all kind of jumbled into a story from 1.0, where you would put down the character and they had their own adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And it taught you a little bit about how to use that character and everything. So.
Yeah. I really miss those with 2 and 3.0. That was a fun thing with 1.0 because at least you'd buy something that didn't have a play set necessarily associated with it right off the bat, but then at least you'd have some flavor, content of the flavor of that character that you could go through. And they had always said that they were going to be available for download, but that kind of never surfaced, which kind of was a bit of a disappointment as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. Well, the final topic here, and I think it will be the closer, as it will probably be the most upsetting of all, is maybe these things could have been after all. So apparently Disney was in talks with Hasbro. They had approached Hasbro, and perhaps they were even working on a deal to help with the figures. It's been publicly stated at this point that the manufacturing of the figures was the main issue, and nobody better in the business than Hasbro to help with that. So what do you think? What do you think about this?
It makes sense. I mean, they make millions and millions of toys every year. That if you want someone that knows how to produce and move vast amounts of plastic around the world, they would have been a great company to partner with. I don't think they would have had any say in the look, feel, or anything. They'd mainly would have just been kind of a subcontractor to produce and distribute these figures, and that would have taken one big pile of annoyances and headaches off of people at Disney, having to get this stuff made and fly over to China and do inspections and all the stuff that they had to do with Disney Infinity. That would have basically just disappeared.
Yep. Do you think that much else would have changed though? I don't think that.
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think there's any change to the figures themselves. It would have just been kind of like how Apple partners with Foxconn to make the stuff, and Apple sells all the things. It would have been something similar, except they would be a Hasbro icon somewhere on the box, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as long as it didn't go the route of what's the thing where you wear it on your hands and you had the figures that went along the playmation. Yeah,
that was kind of trash.
Yeah. Yep. I don't think it would have gone there. I think that Disney would have maintained complete control still.
Yep. I think so. Definitely.
Well, cool, gents. That pretty much wraps up the article. Any additional thoughts of anything that we've discussed that you'd like to expand on, or any comments just in general?
I need to find a new hobby.
No, you don't. It doesn't have to go anywhere.
Yeah, and that's actually my one of my big things is that the game, although the online servers may shut down, the game isn't really going anywhere. As long as it works in your console, you can still play it.
Yeah,
can still build, still have a great time. I'm having a great time with my infinitography. Doing the screen caps and stuff.
Yep. Yeah, and that's something I mentioned last week. Like, there's still plenty of life left. We just kind of have to come together as a community and figure out how we're going to continue it.
Definitely. Yeah, no, definitely not going anywhere. Both with Infinity Love and with stuff that we're doing on the channel. So, yeah, I'm eager to talk about more about the game and getting really, really excited for some of the interviews and stuff that might come in the future with people that were maybe involved with some of the stuff. So yeah, all that stuff is going to be really interesting for someone that is doing the show and also people that are listening to the show.
Definitely. And as we said at the top of the show, we are going to continue discussing the game. We're going to continue to evolve, something we've always tried to do. And appreciate everyone who's come and joined us this week. There's been quite a few people in chat, and the conversation's been super awesome. And we really appreciate it. Like I said earlier, we're not going to have a show next week. We will probably do another show after that. But Lem will be streaming in our normal show time, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Mountain. And stay tuned. Again, subscribe and look for us on all of our different channels so you can make sure to stay up to date on everything. So, gentlemen, Lloyd, thank you once again, as always, for coming on the show and sharing your thoughts.
Yeah, you're welcome. We have a full week of E3 coverage planned over at Res TV, so make sure to follow us and subscribe. We're going to be doing shows for Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, the other guys, and then maybe some general coverage stuff about E3. So, yeah, check that out over at Res TV and youtube.com/Res TV.
Awesome. Lem, thank you for joining. I couldn't tell if you were frozen there. You're so quiet. Thanks for coming on the show and giving us your thoughts as well. Oh man, I'm like you, Lloyd. I cannot talk. I let you guys do all the talking, and now I think I'm just too distracted, so I don't know what's going on. But Lem, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me as, for myself, it's Bad Gamer Elite on Instagram and Twitter. So now it's all one. How easy was that?
Look at you go.
And then I also run the Disney Infinity TV, or Disney Infinity.tv Instagram, and the Disney Infinity TV Twitter. I share responsibilities.
Perfect. Yes, sir. The team's going strong. People have been asking about Jason, and we had actually kind of had him scheduled. Lloyd, you'll probably think this is funny, and you'll know why in a moment. We actually had him scheduled to be on a couple weeks ago, right around the time my computer broke. That's not why he didn't join. He had an emergency impromptu dental visit, and so he's kind of out of the show for a little bit because he's not very presentable. His words, not mine. I still think he's a handsome devil. So I know people are asking for him. Some of the evolution conversations absolutely happening with him. Still a core member of the team. But every time I see him or talk to him, I mention all the kind words people send our way through the show. And so appreciate that he's still around. And Logan's still around too. He's been popping in and out here and there. And we're going to actually hope to have him on the show very soon. So, all right, gentlemen, I think that's going to wrap up this week's show. Thank you so much if you're listening to this or watching us live. We really, really appreciate that. Until a couple weeks' time, I think that's going to be it. And until then, I hope your weeks are filled with infinite possibilities. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Inside Infinity podcast. Thank you so much for all the support. If you'd like to support us in other ways, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/DisneyInfinityTV. Stay tuned for that. Things might change for the better for all of our patrons there as well. Also look for us on Twitter, Facebook. Make sure you subscribe, hit that follow button, hit that love button, hit that heart button. It helps us tremendously, so please do that. Also check out our parent network. Lloyd mentioned it earlier, res.tv. That's where you can find all the shows. Also youtube.com/res.tv.